Hey guys, it's me Suja over here. Welcome back to another video. So on this video I'm going to be talking about my challenges of living in a Vietnamese countryside. So I'm here right now at District 1. I just thought of making this video from Ho Chi Minh, from Saigon. And yeah, if you're new to my channel, the name of my channel is called Suja in Vietnam. I've been living over here for over 7 years, and I was an English teacher before for 4 years, and then I started my online business. And I'm also a full-time YouTuber, so if you're new to my channel, welcome to my channel. And if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, it takes less than 2 seconds, and you can subscribe to my channel, and that way you can support my work, right? So hold on guys, it's not easy vlogging when I'm outside my home. But yeah, let's talk about my challenges of staying out here in the countryside. So for those of you who don't know, I've been living out here in the countryside for over 2 years now. I've been staying at Long An. I would say there are like pros and cons of living out here in the countryside. Yes, there are the pros, and I'm going to keep a link of that down in the description below. And also there are the cons of living out here in the countryside, and I'm going to keep that link also down in the description below, so you may like to check out those videos, right? See, the thing is that where I stay in the countryside, which is like 45 minutes from Ho Chi Minh City, like on a traffic day it could take around an hour, but I rent a house out there. I spend around 4 million per month. My landlady, she's extremely very nice. She takes care of me. But the sad part is, of course, don't expect any foreigners to be out there in the countryside. You just find only factories, like a lot of Chinese factories out there. When I talk about the security, I don't feel very safe, to be honest with you, because of course, I've seen theft and all those kind of things, chain snatching around in the countryside. And yeah, so number one would be, I think, the security. I don't keep valuable items in my home. I don't keep cash in my house. I like to just take out the required amount of money which I really need. I don't want to keep a lot of money in my home, because you never know who's what. The first one would be security. And of course, I don't feel safe going out in the evenings alone. I don't feel safe like walking around alone, because I get a lot of those bad stares, because people who live in the countryside, let me adjust my hair. Yeah, people who live in the countryside, they're not used to foreigners. Point blank, I can let you know. They're not even used to all types of foreigners, and of course you get the bad stares. And so that's one disadvantage, of staying out here in the countryside. It's like a very intimidating environment. Don't get me wrong, it's very countryside when you're staying. You're surrounded by nature, and you got a lot of greenery and everything. I've stayed in the countryside. Let me arrange this. I've stayed in the countryside in the Philippines for a year or so. South of Philippines. That was a different story altogether. But staying out here in the countryside here in Vietnam, of course, you do have a lot of greenery and all that. Clean air for sure, because you don't expect that out here in Ho Chi Minh City, because it's pretty polluted. Hanoi is even worse, because I was there in Hanoi for 2 months. So yeah, you do get to see a lot of greenery, clean air and everything, but at the end of the day, you feel very alone. You feel very lonely, And speaking of alone and isolation, like the place where I stay, all my neighbors, like I've been living for 2 years now. They don't even talk to me. They don't even talk to me, or they don't even say hello. I've tried it out, I've tried to be nice to them. I've even tried to communicate with them. But, they just keep you in a mode of isolation. They'll avoid you. And sometimes, like if I'm taking my motorbike and if I'm coming back home or on my electric bike, I get those kind of hateful stares, from my neighbors, because, I don't know if they, like still in general, overall, I think the Vietnamese, society is not very adjusted with all types of foreigners, and it gives me that vibe, that they're not very friendly with Indians, right? I'm from India. If you don't know where I'm from India. I'm Ando. So yeah, I mean, maybe their perception of a foreigner is like a white man, or a white person, like, I've been told, like, head over heels and all that kind of thing. Because I told you before that there's a lot of white privilege in Vietnam, like if you're white, you get access to a lot of things. The locals will bend over heels. I mean, it's just like that, So yeah, I mean, like, speaking of that isolation, like the neighbors, they don't want to talk to me, and it's like, of course we do have some rental neighbors, and like one time, like I had this neighbor, a rental guy, he was like banging the wall, and I just went up and told him, like I couldn't speak Vietnamese, but I tried my best, like like they basically will avoid you. They will avoid you if you're a person of color, like you got dark brown skin, especially here in Vietnam. They will avoid you, and I'm not sure if if they are friendly towards Indians. That's my personal experience. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not a tourist. I've been living here for 7 years. I know how the environment is. Like unlike in Thailand, where it's a bit different, it's more a different environment altogether. And of course, I do feel comfortable a bit more in Thailand. And of course, even surprisingly, Cambodia was also, I found the people to be very friendly. But over here in Vietnam in general, I don't find people to be very friendly. They got that rudeness attitude, and they'll give you that cold treatment. You really come to know about it. Like, if you're coming to Vietnam as a tourist, that's all right. You can stay out here for 2 weeks, have a blast. But, Vietnam does get very boring. It does get very boring because there's nothing much to do, except going to selected locations, and, so, but let's come back to the countryside, right? Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely I really need an apology from a couple of my neighbors, like who have been avoiding me, and, they give me those hateful looks, I mean, these, pardon my language, I mean, these motherfuckers, should, give me a real sincere apology, for treating me like shit for more than 2 years. They should cook some nice Vietnamese dish and give it to me every week, and, apologize, like, it's just that gets on a bit, like I said, the cold treatment. Classic example would be, my landlady, she invited me last month to a Vietnamese countryside wedding party, and I went there with her. So I was wearing my mask, and everybody was like looking out of curiousness, a lot of people. And I sat outside, with a bunch of other Vietnamese countryside people. And when I opened my mask, like they had the most sorry ass face in the whole world. They had the most sorry ass face in the whole world. And, I heard somewhere, like Vietnam is ranked one of the most happiest countries in Southeast Asia. Seriously, fuck that, I mean, I don't know where these guys get the statistics from, but I'm going to be making a separate video about that as well. But I'm not bashing Vietnam, but I'm just giving you the reality, because my channel is straight up, no BS. I like to speak my mind. I like to express my challenges out here in Vietnam and in Southeast Asia. You love it or you hate it, okay? But I always speak the truth, okay? I think still it'll take another 5 years for the Vietnamese society to be adjusted and to be friendlier to all different sorts of foreigners, all different types of foreigners. But anyways, like I was out there in the, the Vietnamese countryside wedding party, and they had the most sorry ass face in the whole fucking world. And like for the next half an hour, I was feeling so uncomfortable. I felt like I need to get the fuck out of the party, the wedding party. And the landlady said, Sujoy, just focus on eating your food. Yeah, because a lot of food was coming around, and just focus on eating your food. And I was just focusing, and the people out there in the wedding party, they were constantly staring at me, and couple of these young Vietnamese guys here, and they were giving me the most hateful look, which was making me feel very uncomfortable. And anyway, so I sat there for an hour, still eating and hogging around. And then, to my surprise, everything became normalized. As people left, I felt more comfortable. There were 1-2 Vietnamese people. They approached me. They were like, oh, you're from, you're Ando. Oh, yeah, very good. It's like India, very good, #1. Yeah, it is #1. So anyways, like, had all that, lobster and all the countryside wedding cuisines and all that stuff with jazz, which came around. And then my landlady, she told me, like, how do you feel right now, Sujoy? I said, I feel comfortable now. I feel comfortable because when I was out there in the wedding party for half an hour, I was like feeling so freaking uncomfortable. These are the challenges of living out there in the countryside, because they're not used to all types of foreigners. You get a lot of hateful looks. And of course, you're cut out from the city. You're practically cut out from the city. Your mobility becomes very less, unless or until you drive a motorbike and you know where to go around. And it's just that, let the kids go. Yeah, a lot of noisy kids, because I was an English teacher once upon a time out here in Vietnam, so I know how the Vietnamese students are. They get a bit noisy, anyways. But yeah, it's just that. Yeah, still, the awareness. I would say ignorance, lack of knowledge. Don't get me wrong, but I think like the countryside people and Vietnam in general, they don't have very good views about India. Like knowing that India is the 4th largest economy in the world. It's a very powerful country, and like India is doing very well in the global market. The Vietnamese people don't have knowledge about this. They just know about yoga and curry, and some people told me there are very rich Indians. Rest are all poor. And like you go on YouTube and you type Ando, which is India, you'll see a lot of negative content on YouTube regarding India. So I don't know what kind of picture they're trying to portray out here. Even the Vietnamese media, like they are not very favorable when they try to talk positive about India, my country in general. But yeah, these are my challenges. Extreme isolation. You'll be left out alone. Nobody's going to be coming and talking to you. Yeah, and I've been living out here for more than 2 years now in the countryside in Long An, in Mien Long An. Don't get me wrong, I have a nice house. I rent a nice house. My landlady, she's extremely nice. I told in one of my previous videos, like when I had food poisoning, how she took care of me and everything. So she's a very nice person. But the neighbors, they don't want to communicate with me. They'll always leave me isolated. It's not that, I don't care if they speak English or not, but just like, if they can just even say Xin Chao or hello. But when they look at me, they don't want to communicate with me, and it just makes my stay in the countryside very uncomfortable nowadays. So yeah, if it's worth staying, so my question out here is, if you're planning to stay out here in the countryside here in Vietnam, by all means have the experience, but like don't stay out here in the countryside for more than a month. you know, because you'll start feeling it. I mean, I've been living out here for more than 2 years in the countryside. So yeah, that's my personal experience. Not worth it. Yes, of course, you'll enjoy the beauty and, you know, fresh air and everything, but when it comes to you know, a friendly type environment and all that, forget about it. In the countryside, you will not get that. So I don't think it's worth it. Of course, rent's going to be cheaper if you're going to be staying out here in the countryside, but my friends, it's not worth it. Seriously, it's really not worth it. You know, I mean, don't waste your money. Might as well go somewhere else in Southeast Asia and stay in the countryside. That'll be better for you, because these Vietnamese people, they don't know anything about me. They don't know that, you know, I lived in Europe for so many years of my childhood. I lived in Russia for 10 years. I speak Russian. I was in America, did my college there. My family lives in America. They don't know anything about me. So anyways, I'm not complaining. I would love to hear from you. You know, like, are you planning to stay out here in the countryside? Do you have any bad experience of staying out here in the countryside here in Vietnam? Or do you have any good experiences? Don't get me wrong, countryside people are nice. Countryside people are very nice here in Vietnam, but they're not used to all types of foreigners, you know. Maybe if they see a white person, you know, that'll be different. They'll be head over heels, you know, because like I said, there's a lot of white privilege out here in Vietnam, but they're not going to be used to all types of foreigners, like having dark brown skin, and especially if you're from India and all that, you know, like, I don't know what's up with that, you know. So yeah, I do get the heat, I do get the friction, I do get the microaggression, but yeah, it's an experience, man. I mean, I've been living out here for more than 2 years in a Vietnamese countryside. I don't know how many expats have done that, apart from, you know, staying out here in the touristy locations here in Vietnam, and, you know, like those Western expat YouTubers coming out here in Vietnam, giving you a false narrative. You know, 10 things to do, 5 things to do. You know, it's all for their political gains, and of course they want to get viewership and more subscribers, because, you know, my channel is straight up no BS. I really like to speak my mind, you know. Yeah, so yeah, if you found this content to be useful, if you like this content, make sure to like my video and all the good stuff. And if you can relate to my situation with this video, you can always buy me a coffee. The link is down in the description below. That way you can support my work. And if you're traveling around in Southeast Asia and if you want to start a successful online business and, you know, avoid all this teaching racism out here in Southeast Asia, hiring teaching racism and all that BS, check out the free webinar masterclass. You know, the link is down in the description below. It's always better to be an entrepreneur in Southeast Asia. You're going to be avoiding all these discrimination and all those kind of stuffs, you know. So yeah, with that being said, this was me, Sujoy. Peace out.